No cooperation, the massive roadblock facing local contact tracers.
Another man is facing federal charges from the Fargo riot, the challenge for federal investigators.
Plus, restricting visitors, changes coming to some long-term care facilities in North Dakota. Valley News Live at 10 starts right now.
Live from Fargo and serving you on TV, online and on the go. This is Valley News Live at 10.
New at 10 tonight, with COVID-19 numbers increasing in North Dakota, a new problem that health officials are running into is people not cooperating with contact tracing.
Valley News Team's Devin Fry spoke with the Department of Health about the difficulties of contact tracing and why it's so important.
The more that we cooperate, the shorter that we will have to put up with it.
With COVID-19 cases continuing to rise in North Dakota, one issue that health officials are dealing with is people not cooperating with contact tracing. This tool, which officials use to notify people that they were in close contact with someone who had the illness, has been widely used since the pandemic hit North Dakota, but not everyone is helping the process.
We definitely have seen an increase in non-compliance.
The contact tracing process relies heavily on the person who tested positive for COVID-19. Once they're alerted of the positive result, tracers then contact the person who tested positive. They then ask them for the contact information for anyone who may have been around them for the 48 hours prior to the symptoms showing up. Once they have that list of contacts, they reach out to those individuals who may have been exposed so they can get tested or go into quarantine. Cooperation is the key to this process, and when officials don't get help from the person who tested positive, it creates a massive roadblock for contact tracers.
Most time people are being honest and giving us truthful information, but it's the ones that are a little bit harder to work with that stick out. They might not even tell us all their contacts, which is super important that they tell us who their contacts are, because we need to potentially get those people who were in close contact into quarantine so that we can stop the spread.
Brennan also says that those who are worried about giving their information out don't have anything to fear when it comes to contact tracing.
We are bound by those high privacy and federal laws, and we can lose our jobs, we can get fined. So it's not something that we want to mess around with. And just know that your information is protected and it's not going to go anywhere further than you and your contact tracer.
Reporting from Fargo, Devin Fry, Valley News Live.
For more information on the contact tracing process, just visit our website, valleynewslive.com.
Here are the latest COVID-19 numbers. North Dakota reporting 447 new cases in the state, along with 8 new deaths. 246 people have died in the state. The daily positivity rate now is up to 8.72%. Minnesota is reporting 689 new cases, along with 16 new deaths, bringing the death toll to 2,036 people. More than 89,000 people have recovered. Keep your eyes out for a new push to get you to wear a protective mask. The idea of a mask campaign in Fargo surfaced today during a Cass County COVID-19 Task Force update meeting. The push is to get you to cover up and go along with the statewide Mask Up North Dakota campaign. Details can be found on our website, valleynewslive.com. Before declaring a state of emergency, North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum and the Health Department said the goal of the state's COVID-19 response was to protect vulnerable populations. Recent infection spikes have prompted some facilities to restrict visitations again. While those ages 60 plus make up only 24% of all COVID-19 cases in the state, they also make up 59% of hospitalizations and 92% of deaths. So families are trying to adapt to see their loved ones.
I can't tell you how many phone calls I get on a weekly basis saying, what are we doing? Why are we locking them up? I understand, but we have to keep our residents safe. And the only way we can do it right now is, with what we're doing in long-term care.
As of today, there are 183 active cases in residents and 269 for skilled workers. With the new record highs, some facilities are once again changing their visitation policies and putting pressure on staff.
3 months ago tonight, downtown Fargo was a dangerous place to be as dozens of protesters went head-to-head with police after the death of George Floyd. Tonight, a second man is charged in federal court, and we're told he won't be the last. Valley News Team's Courtney Lockey joins us live in the studio with details from today's hearing. Courtney?
Andrea, this afternoon, U.S. Attorney Drew Wrigley announced that a Moorhead man is facing a civil disorder charge. Authorities say Jonathan Montanez was agitating the crowd by jumping on a police squad car and damaging it. If convicted of the felony charge, he could spend up to 5 years in prison and pay up to $250,000 fine. Montanez is the second person to face federal charges from the night of the riot. Police are working with the FBI to identify even more people so they can pursue federal charges. But they're saying the face coverings are making that difficult.
Every single person, we can prove all of the elements of a federal offense, every one of them will indict. And so I don't have a set number, but anybody watching the TV that night and knows about the activities that took place right up the street from the courthouse here understands that there's a fairly significant number.
Now, Montanez will appear in court again this Friday. Wrigley says they're seeking to detain him until his trial, which will take place in federal court here in Fargo on November 17th. Andrea?
All right, Courtney, thank you. U.S. Attorney Wrigley says so far about 300 people have been indicted for rioting nationwide.
To an exclusive story now where the family of a 24-year-old Minnesota woman is speaking out tonight in hopes that the death of Sydney Jacobson and the arrest of her alleged drug dealer sparked change within the Monoman County. 39-year-old Gordon Warren is in jail charged with third-degree murder after court documents say he sold $15 worth of heroin mixed with fentanyl to Jacobson on May 14th, which later led to her overdose death.
I'm glad that this one isn't going to go unsolved like so many others. I mean, I feel so bad for so many parents that won't ever get closure.
The Monoman County attorney says Jacobson's death is only the second overdose in the last year that resulted in criminal charges. If convicted, Warren faces up to 25 years in prison.
Voters who requested an absentee ballot for the primary election could check a second box on their ballot application that would automatically send them their general election ballot. County auditors across the state are then required to fulfill those requests, but that doesn't mean voters can't change their minds. If a voter requested a November general election ballot back before the June primary and they now want to vote in person, election officials say they can do that.
Just because they've requested a ballot, they might actually choose to go and vote in person, and that's why our electronic poll book is so important, because once you voted, the system is going to know that you voted.
The Secretary of State says the information in the database will ensure no one can cast a vote twice. Early voting in Cass County begins on October 19th, or you can still request an absentee ballot by going online to vote.nd.gov.
No let-up tonight from President Donald Trump as his campaign made a post-debate stop in Minnesota. The president just wrapped up a speech in Duluth where he continued his verbal assault on Vice President Joe Biden and his policies.
I was debating two people last night. Joe Biden is too weak to lead this country. You know, Biden lost badly when his supporters are saying he should cancel the rest of the debates. Now I understand he's canceling the debates. Let's see what happens. I think that's not going to be a good move for him.
Tonight's stop was the third time in recent weeks that President Trump has visited Minnesota, which is a battleground state in this year's election. The last time a Republican presidential candidate won Minnesota was 1972 with Richard Nixon.
Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden campaigned across Ohio and Pennsylvania today, stopping at 6 train stations along the way. When speaking to reporters, Biden described President Trump's conduct during last night's debate and suggested that rule changes should be made before the next face-off between the two candidates. Biden said the way the president conducted himself was a national embarrassment.
The dog tags belonging to a North Dakota soldier who was wounded in Vietnam are with the soldier's family tonight after being gone for more than 50 years. Ronald Hepper, who grew up near Selfridge in Sioux County, lost them in 1969 when a hand grenade blew off the boots he was wearing with the dog tags inside. They recently resurfaced in Russia, where an American bought them from a street vendor and gave them to the U.S. Embassy. Today, Governor Doug Burgum returned them to Hepper's widow, Ruth. Hepper died in 2007 at the age of 58. Governor Doug Burgum said during that ceremony, "We are eternally grateful for the courageous service and sacrifices made by Ron Hepper and all North Dakotans who proudly served their country in the Vietnam War, as well as their families, especially those whose loved ones never came home." Hepper is buried at the North Dakota Veterans Cemetery.
Still ahead tonight, if the pandemic doesn't get you, the weather might. Local restaurants struggle to adapt when customers don't want to sit outside.
But first, time to shift gears in the weather and adapt to chillier temps, such as the details when we return.